Geshe Tsultim Gyeltsen Venerable Geshe Tsultim Gyeltsen GSTDL Sancho Bardo Dane Shabsun Lage Jege Jebe Sonum Lola Pensha Sanjen Dober Sho Sangan Je Kedan Zoje Jonam Sancho Bardo Dane Shabsun Lage Jege Jebe Sonum Lola Pensha Sanjen Dober Sho Sangan Je Kedan Zoje Jonam Sancho Bardo Dane Shabsun Lage Jege Jebe Sonum Lola Pensha Sanjen Dober Sho Onas Majona Gitadani Bisingetani Dendo Tojalana Mekoyanda Bozobi Sanji Kumburum Stova Shago Pedro Bashavi Kedo Bechera Bokisenya Bikono Janji Sembi Sembi Gona Sempre Kyo
Let us cultivate the altruistic motivation that seeks complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. With that kind of altruism, or what we call bodhicitta motivation, that we should all participate in this teaching.
That another Chamalo that's how Businche, Lower to Saint Tamche, a Kang Chamalo, then they were the Kivo. At the Lake that, League so correct in a so the great is on Tangueros.
When we look at all the six types of sentient beings in samsara or cyclic existence, we often call them six types of migrators, down to the smallest insects, we all, wish for, peace, happiness, and the best of everything. And so that's what we're all seeking. So in that respect, we and other sentient beings are just the same.
I tend to Chamalo that the some due to the Sangu or the inner doing it in the Guyamas, doing it Johnny, can they children can live in the Guyamaros.
So when we look deep down within ourselves and, if you will, in the hearts and minds of all other sentient beings, what we're all seeking is just the same: peace, happiness, and the best of everything. And what we really don't want is any kind of pain and problem. So even though we all share those innate wishes, but when we look at realistically, if you will, our life situations, we all go through all different kinds of good and bad experiences. And all these experiences of ours are nothing but related to our own karmic actions, karmas or actions that we ourselves perform and accumulate. In other words, what we experience, both good and bad, is the result of our own karmic action. So what or I just said, of course, is based upon very sound, rational, and if we could do some deeper analysis, I think we will be able to discover or figure it out for ourselves all the good reasons why that is the case with our life and our life experiences. That they are all related with our karmic actions.
아니 산노 동신그 매나야 아니 시소가 난도스 파트에다 아니 다리 만다마 주치숑 류장에 다 리그 세링통 다 때리 만다와 나 초바 휴지 용도 와서 된주 아니 용부야 때 아니 레레 텐 숑브레스 때 하고도 와서.
So when we look around in the society we live in, we know that all of us as people of the same community or the world, we have so many, differences in terms of who we are and our life experiences. There are people who are extremely rich, then there are those who are extremely poor, and then there are those who, live very long and healthy life, and then there are those, who have a terrible, miserable, short life, and then there are those who look, very handsome and beautiful and joy to look at, and then there are those who are not. And so we find all these kind of differences in the society we live in among ourselves. Why? But if we ask the question, these are all related with karmic actions that we ourselves have created and accumulated.
가르쳐버려. 근데 세보지 통도 왔어. 손자 다 랑게. 근데 리베 초도 지금 되고 도나. 다티 랑레 주야게 고급대 단데 여대 그랬어.
So as we deal with karmic actions and their results, important lessons that we should take from it is that if we do want good things happen in our life, then we really have to do the positive actions, do the right things.
손자 땡인잔다 땡인잔 랑게 가르쳐왔다. 얘는 내베리 간디지 쉐비나 때티 랑은 내 차는 거랬어.
And we have to understand that if we hurt or harm others, basically we are harming ourselves.
손자다 랑게 아니 랑레 데 스파타 미망가 나타 데부데 치부 가리진도나 덴도 참말로게 얘라 펜바 두베니 데브레 손자다 랑게 데부데 치부 진데고 도나 생기 얘라 펜타가 상통그레스.
And if think deeply, if we were to think deeply, then we'd come to see that all the good things that we enjoy in our life and all the good things we see in the society, what we might call comfort, happiness, and benefits, these are the results of cherishing others and contributing positively to others' well-being.
생기 얘는 내배 릭타 랑 루타가다 이지군 얘는 내가 짠 시지어 말았어 랑 어떤 메제 토알 랑 루타가 이숨부데 베겨 땅네 근데 생기 얘는다 펜버드야지 제우가 펜다 토버지 신나다 대장이야 보면 다 쳐버렸어.
So the bottom line message is this, that if we use our body, speech, and mind, each of us has these three things. If we use them properly, in the sense that we do things or say things or think about things which are beneficial to others, such actions of ours will bring positive results. And we should also see that we don't use our body, speech, and mind, or we don't do anything physically, say anything verbally, think anything mentally which are negative, especially towards others, then I think we are really, we are not only taking good care of ourselves, but we're also contributing positively to the society at large.
Sanjay Ranke Nikana Dor Duni, Dibakin Magista, Gawakasin the good to a Chevrus numbers.
Our historical teacher Shakyamuni Buddha himself said very clearly, and as Geshe was quoting the lines from his memory, Buddha said, never accumulate any non-virtue or negativity. And Gewa Pisum Sabache, always accumulate virtue or positive action.
So that the Ali Tara any Tabarek Saba Pengas on a human is that Nimbasota Mamboko in that Saba Pengas and Till any those Peggy Nyamsa language. Junsi Karasna, Junsi around a liquid sort and go or Sonsa tea, around the children tea, Tony Ungo or Sansa, and those 2 years.
The reason why I always take a little bit of time at the beginning to explain what you might think as like more basic teachings of Buddhism is more intended for people who are here for the first time or who are coming here in recent times. Of course, those of you who have been attending my teachings for a good length of time, you already have heard me talk about these things many times. So this would serve more as a reminder for you, not so much as a new teaching or information. And I feel really it's important for all of us to consider these issues of the matters, because we need to understand why we need spirituality or Dharma in our life. We got to understand the reasons why. And the reasons why include, as I said, because we want the best of everything, all the good things happen in our life, so all the good things come from good actions or positive actions, which means we got to do them. And we don't want any bad things, any problem, pain, headaches, suffering, misery, heartbreaking, whatever, all of those things. All these things come from negative actions, which means don't do them. Okay, so these are, sound reasons or rationale why we need to educate ourselves in Dharma and then cultivate Dharma in our mind and life.
That casting him and the Kadam teaching in my shoes.
And now I want to return back to this wonderful text, which could simply be called Advice from Great Kadamba Masters, the Geshes. The proper title would be a miscellaneous collection of Kadamba Geshes and advices.
No. That 2 kilos, Ania, the Romte Javin Junila, Ane Kadam Kunchu some cheese, Ania Tawach Shindus. So at one point of time, the 3, what we commonly refer to as 3 Kadamba brothers, Kuchesum, they asked a question to Dromtemba. That Tawat industry. Wember Nyansul Lampatans, Ne Wembala Den in those in the Sosu Nyanle Shabatans, and a Saint-Gela Church Pendovani, Cape Kangchela Shubes. And Wemble and those in the Duanish Devatan, and a church temple, and a cake, Kari, Yagar, Zangris, Yakubris.
The question they asked Dromtemba was this: which is more beneficial thing to do of these 2 things? The 2 things are to benefit beings through Dharma or spirituality, or to practice in a solitude. So which of these 2 actions is more beneficial thing to do?
That thing later, and on the Javi Jun, that thing later Mandukanam. And a Rangula, Nyando KMPS, Lea Tambo Kansakis, Singing La Church Pentacha, or Tomares. Rangila Yende KMP, that late Tambo was by late Tambo to pay that Sadmini Kunking consumption. At Tenjuga any Rangila any Yamto Yamnesia, the Anya Towa to the KK Mena Yasta, realizing Roma, Mekani Mena, and a late Tambo to Zukani, Kansai 생긴 아니 최대한 펜타에 가보레 도구 말해서
Drumdamba, said, in the case of beginners, without having any kind of realizations in their own mind, even if they try to benefit others through Dharma, it will be not much of a benefit. Okay, because basically, oneself as individuals lack spiritual practice and spiritual realization. Being in that situation or the state, trying to benefit others through Dharma is not going to be much of a benefit.
Tati tog mare tek junse karresena shinlabde ese ne tomba shiwa tandates ane ne tomba kindus ma tu sheven tenen be sayan ke yamarwa tina I chagres shinlabde ne shinlab ne tomba tash le tomba shiwa tandates.
And the reason why includes here, he uses an example there. It is just like we are trying to pour something out of an empty pot. There's nothing that's going to come out, So if we really think of giving blessings to others or inspiring others, but we ourselves lack spiritual practice and realization, then basically what we're really trying to do is to give to something that we don't have. It's just like trying to get something out of an empty pot.
Ani shinle longon jume se da shinle le te shinle tog mares da shinle unjume sundo.
So basically, there's no blessings to give to others.
Danga ani danga bangma nempre singpe chantan ratis da te junzo agom bangma se chang de shene chang zue ne de chumang bu je ne da 유자들 데코 대야 ke yamaro bangma se gatel tena gi chane ani nena ani chong ge chang ge ani judi ma yamares.
And another example he used is that of an alcohol devoid of its content. So the Tibetan the term we use is chang, which is the Tibetan version of I think vodka or Budweiser of some kind. So if the alcohol is not fermented, right, then it's not an alcohol. We're just basically drinking, pure water. There's nothing that gives you any zip or any kind of feeling. There's nothing in it. So basically, it's like that, a chang without the chang content, And so we are trying to give to others some kind of blessing that we ourselves don't have.
가래서는 ndates den rabu chagres 가래서는 당알로 주야 말이스.
So basically, when we ourselves don't have realizations, we ourselves lack practice, then trying to benefit others through spirituality or dharma is just like this. It is like instruction or a teaching with no essence. It has no taste. It's just I don't want to go to the extent of saying useless, but not much benefit.
That dread toban last, temba masopi, and meba shepi that can sadakinda. Kazakis, Sinji Tenshar Matuptis, Kata Susho Tamabat Sinji Tenshar Takabu, Yantavasiel Kavores, Ganandis.
So the basic point is that ordinary people like us, even if we want to really benefit sentient beings through spirituality, realistically speaking, is a very difficult thing to do.
This one, Jolam Turi, Journey, Zemo Zoba Churches. That journey and a dread top and Jolam Tobni, Subsini, Jolam Toba Yena, and temba maso padesta lamda ente pe ta tembo maso pado ani senji den da ba shial te khawres kanando kira khawre.
So it is said that until we reach the heat level of the path of preparation and be stabilized in that path, as ordinary people, it's very difficult for us to benefit beings through spirituality or dharma. We are not able to bring much of a benefit to them because of our own condition. And so what we are really talking about here is in the context of Buddhist structure of the path. There are 5 paths. The first one is called the path of accumulation, and the second is called the path of preparation. So let's say we have already transcended the path of accumulation, and now we are on the path of preparation. The path of preparation has 4 different levels or the stages. There's what called the heat level, there is the peak level, there is the patience level, and then there is the supermundane level. Now, if we reach the first level of path of preparation and we are really stabilizing it, it's like we just got there, we are really stable in this path, then, we may be able to benefit others spiritually and bring much benefit to them. Until we reach that stage, as ordinary people, trying to benefit others through spirituality may not work, much of a benefit.
Gain Kangsana, Rani Tombrages, Penkaji, Yelati, Shilab, Susu anytime Monsieur Salt, leading into that Lucian shaving in a Yell Pento in a rank Shilapti, that round the Karsota, rank the Yin Patrebis on his mato, and a round you take anything, London the Jig Mariscanando.
And another example that's being used here to depict such situation is that, let's say, this goes like a little better for us. Now, let's say, we have something to give. It's not like empty pot, as we said before. But then, if we give it to others, then we don't have it. It's just like, a pot has something in it, and you pour it out into another pot, so then the first pot gets empty, because there's nothing in it. So basically, it would be like that. As ordinary people, not having reached that level we just talked about, even if we have something to give, once we give it to others, then we are empty. We have nothing left.
And then, Danga de enter the Shavina, Danga de any dreaming lajutantratis, Jikin Lucini, Ran Anita, Dijuna. Nakunguna, that Seisha Shaya, the Demigiana, that the Yin Travina, that round you Marva.
And more examples. Another example is just like we got a torch, that we could use, to shine light in the darkness, but we give it to others. Now we are in darkness. Others got our light. So it would be like that.
This and the Danga, Demi Lajutan Dratis. Yen Saltamna, Rani interpretation, you thought about anyway. That's her topness. And the Perda Satone, Marasengi to say showing in this Satopseta, Bena Tolam Togata, Tiki, that need to bet you belong to. Take it solemn, Jorlam, you need condition, Tolam to the Satan will live. She's a Satone there. Ane Marasingi to say showing this, that Jackson to this.
However, if we attain what is called a spiritual ground or bhumi in Sanskrit, then if we were to benefit other sentient beings, we would be enhanced in our own situation by benefiting others. Okay. So what are we talking about? Of course, here we are dealing with Mahayana paths. And as I just mentioned earlier, there are 5 spiritual paths. And the first one is called the path of accumulation, and then the path of preparation. These spiritual paths are considered as ordinary paths. Bodhisattvas on these 2 spiritual paths, they are still ordinary bodhisattvas. Okay. Now, once we hit the path of seeing, the third path is called darshan mark in Sanskrit. Now we attain what is called the first spiritual ground of bodhisattvas. Okay? So as we hit this ground, the first spiritual ground onward, now when we benefit and work for other sentient beings, we are able to bring much benefit to others, and in the process, we are able to, enhance, ourselves spiritually. So the example that's used to illustrate this point is, it's just like a wish-fulfilling vase. Right? When you pour out of the wish-fulfilling vase, in the other vases, the wish-fulfilling vase never gets empty. And it always comes into full circle, so to speak. So it's just like that. When we're on a spiritual ground, the first spiritual ground of Bodhisattvas onward, when we benefit others, we give blessings to others, we give inspirations to others, we work for others, as much as we benefit others, we are able to, enhance our own spirituality. So it is just like a wish-fulfilling vase, that you fulfill others' wishes, but you never become empty.
Sa thomne se da danga mami yima tandratis ta nu be kadam bis da sungre danga de ne rang ke ya danga de sanji gu chue des mami yima tandratis mami yise se mami dus da jatam ba yana tambo den de pe par yana ta tene ne te pe ti ji jin ti se be na ko de ne de jong yar de koran se bu deng do has je da ten sung do.
And another example given to illustrate the point is just like that inexhaustible original bottle lamp or a candle light. Right? So from that light, you can light another 100 candle lights or bottle lamps, but that original light, it stays bright and, it never gets extinguished. So it would be like that.
Susu shius wemperas ta wembala dene shambatan hinge shanju senla lokom de shawa mayimba sengen longus pendo bitu mayin jesa tare tate himanga bo do bitu inderas and susu shows da susu show namchis wemper dene shambatan hinge computures shanju sen computures tanzo lokom ba shevitures.
So here the great Domdamba says that as beginners, it is time for us to seek solitude and cultivate love, compassion, and altruism of bodhicitta. Train our mind. We need to cultivate these positive states of mind within ourselves in our solitude. So it is a time to do that, not so much to directly try to benefit other sentient beings, because we are really not in that particular situation. So at this time of what we call degenerations or the dregs, the Tibetan term is called nyingma. Nyingma means dregs, degeneration. Maybe the best word we use is garbage. So it's the time of 5 different types of garbage we usually talk about, and which is to do with lifespan. Our lives, we are living at a time our lifespan is degenerating. We don't really live too long, although we might think we do. But so that's one of the 5 dregs or the degenerations. And another thing is, we experience very rampant deluded states of mind. We are rich with delusions. Not a good news. But that's one of the 5 dregs or the garbage. I think garbage works really well here. And we are dealing with very, That's why I said with English sometimes the word doesn't work well here. We can say degenerate sentient beings, but we are dealing with very difficult to deal with sentient beings. Full of delusions and hard to deal with. And so then we are dealing with many distorted views, wrong views. One of the five garbage. And we are living at a very difficult time. It's called degenerated era, or what we call Kali Yuga. You might like that one as a term. So we live at a time with all these five garbages are very rampant and dominating whole society in our life. And at such a time, as ordinary people, it is better for us to seek a solitude, discipline our mind, cultivate positive attitudes such as love, compassion, and bodhicitta, rather than trying to benefit sentient beings directly, because we have nothing to give, or if we give, we are empty. I just want to explain the Tibetan word nyigma, which means waste products. It's like in a tea bag. Once you get the tea out of it, then what use is that tea dust or whatever tea bag? It's to throw away. So that's what we call drag, nyigma.
Ranjuli Yepe, Nyama, but Sumi Tures. Member Sung says any pay, call Dapo Johnny, Yawashi Sigamare. Ranju Yepe, Nyama, but any touch laying a back at the start of the time. About Kaya, the chase, Sungata, Sung says any pay, Kuma Son, Ranjuli Yepe, Nyama, but any Kuma Son, call Dapo Jen, Sung Sheni, laying about Sama Hibashi.
And it is a time that we should guard our mind from our own delusions. Because, if we let the delusions rule, then they drive us, to do all kind of crazy things, and mostly negative karmic actions, which lead to more problems and, unhappy results. So what we really need to do is we need to gain sort of control over delusions. So what we really need is to guard our mind, to safeguard our mind from our own delusions.
This is that that Mambo hidden and agreement, Matige, then big on Jackson Doa. And then you move go around and don't zoom chene. Zone, that quite show is a some don't take Mabazak, than those in it. Gumason like Shene. And then rang the same to those soon, the Dagris Canando.
As one of the great Kadamba Geshes by the name of Geshe Ben Kunchen, how he practiced. And, he said metaphorically that I hold a spear of antidote in my hand and always stand alert at the mouth of the cave of my delusions, or my delusion. When he gets tough, I get tough. When he rests or relaxes, I relax, So that's how Geshe Ben Kunchen practiced. So that's what we need to do. We need to cultivate mindfulness and, to be vigilant of the delusions which pop up in our mind. And when they go crazy, we counteract them. But when they are not messing up, then we could rest.
Meng Jungi the Zhang Yan those you take Kunju Yan Sani, Ko Ani has Sonso Seni had the London Jag, Javi Tausi Duri Mato, Ko Jag do Marabas. Then I do mine, assume it doing that's Sungu, then I and then Ranjula Yuntia share the top share at the kitchen race. That Ranjula Yuntia, one compare the top share, but and then Ran, Nuba maybe any Carseta. Yendeshi but she can run the Ranjuli and take one pair she at the kitchen Canada.
So as beginners, it is a time for us, so to speak, to take care of our own situation. We need to protect our own mind from our delusions. we need to cultivate love, compassion, and altruism in a solitude rather than focus on directly benefiting sentient beings, because we really couldn't benefit them much. Okay? Either we have nothing to give, we are empty pot, or we have something to give and we will empty ourselves. And it's not going to work that much. And another example given to illustrate this point, it is like, if we are growing medicinal plants, when they are very young, it is time to nurture them so that when the right time comes, we can use the medicine. But if we uproot the young medicinal plants, before they are of much benefit, then we are just wasting them. So just like that, if we don't discipline ourselves and do protect our mind from delusions, then we are wasting our time and efforts. So what has just been said here, of course, it comes from a highly realized spiritual master. And he is right in exactly what he said. But I also feel that because of time change and everything, we are living at a very different time. But if we really do know something well, if it could be just one word or one thing, but we're sure that we know what it is, then it would also be beneficial to share that with others. Of course, we don't want to misinform and confuse the other people. But if we know something really well, then out of a good motivation, if we share that one word of wisdom or whatever, I think that has its own benefits. Of course, we don't want to be, pretentious. We don't know something, but we pretend to so well that we know it, and then misinform and confuse and mislead other people. That is a terrible thing to do. So, as listeners, or when we listen to other people, we have to take time to investigate and to examine, what others say, their teachings or their talks or their speeches. So when we listen to others, one of the things we can check is whether what the others say, it undermines or contradicts what Buddha has said. If anything contradicts Buddha's principles or the teachings, then we cannot follow that. But if others say something that is really positive, that adds to doing positive things or thinking positively, then that's something we could take from others. As I often, mention this to you, that it's very important for us to take time to examine and investigate Buddha's own words and teachings. We just should not take them because Buddha said so. Okay? Because Buddha said things at different times, under different circumstances, for different people. Okay? So it's very important for us to study them deeply, reason why Buddha said such and such thing at one point of time, then he said another thing at another point of time. Okay? So that's why in Buddhism, there's a whole topic which is very difficult to deal with. It is called the distinction between that which is definitive and that which is interpretable, chang'e in Tibetan. So Buddha said something that requires authentic interpretation. Not to take his words at a superficial level, not to take what Buddha said literally, because that would be the wrong thing to do, But it really requires an authentic interpretation, understanding, and so it's very important for us to be able to distinguish between what is that Buddha said, which we could take literally, and what is that he said, which needs valid interpretation.
장된 송바 장된 송바 던지 참말로 공부 힘래 랭고 그래서 근데 힘 삼방 그래서.
So Buddha said many things which we call are interpretable, means don't take them as he said it, but they have a different context and meaning, and they were meant for different purposes. So we have to really learn, what is exactly meant by whatever he said, and when he said it, and for who he said it, and all of that.
근데 송자 안에 장도연당 예전 정도이 다 남게 차기 차업한 쟁크들 안에 산지랑가 롱템베테 다시 부담은 이요레스.
So because of such distinctions we find in Buddha's own teachings of the words, Buddha himself had prophesied that there would be two people who would be qualified, most qualified to interpret his teachings.
산지게 다 망보 송구야도 가르스나 강사그 탐도 삼발을 때니 어느 송이 타투 편파에 송이가레스. 이나 때 뭐스페 인다게 공부 인도 장인사니 강사 탐아바그 공부대 지기 도구야마 제저 송자다 힘다 김보 인생 루루도 소명이 뭐 된도시네 아니 내 마음판나 아니 다 장의 전나게 이제 장의 등의 도이 나게 타기 차원진 고난이 이제 그래서 롱때나요 그래서.
Of course, Buddha as an enlightened being has the most beneficial motivation or state of mind for all sentient beings. But at the same time, Buddha taught everything in accordance with the mental dispositions and the capacities of different people. So basically, in some sense, Buddha had no choice to say only one thing. He had to teach according to people's capacities and dispositions. So that's why he taught so many different levels of teachings. And so Buddha himself said that there would be two pioneers, Arya Nagarjuna, we call Gombo Ludo, and Arya Asanga, Papa Thome. These would be the two most authentic commentators or the pioneers or elucidators of Buddha's teachings, because they had the complete understanding and abilities to make subtle distinctions of Buddha's teachings based on what we call that which is definitive and that which is interpretable. Buddha himself made the prediction about them.
히레니 본데니 미미 나와 메시딩도 왔어. 다때 내가 송바 나이 그때 셔베나니 뱅간디 쳐부차가 메다 나와 여인들 메센데 가서 쳐부차가 된다때 메다 나와 메세 칠다가 송을 때 얘나 메주그 뭐니 맥다 나와니 보다 가리기미네 하고 그래서.
I think many of you are familiar with one of the most recited sutras. Buddhists called Heart Sutra. Pranjanaparamita Hridayam Sutra. And in that sutra, you find many statements such as no ears, no nose, no tongue, no this, no that, no those. So if you really take them as they are said, it makes really no sense at all. What do you mean? Like no eyes, no ears, It's just completely senseless thing to do. But we need to understand what really Buddha meant by such expressions, if you will.
유주그 밑에다 매주그 민님부터 가가 이제야때 말아 좀 타마가 힘거 다때 롱템비 힘다 좀 루루서 소명이 나요 그래서.
So we as ordinary people on our own is very difficult for us to understand such teachings. What did really Buddha mean by that? Such senseless things like no ear, no nose, no that, no this. But at the same time, Buddha was really giving a very profound teaching. He was trying to distinguish between things which exist and things which don't exist, right? So there are eyes and ears and nose, things exist, and then there are some kind they don't. And so on our own, as an ordinary people, we have no ability to understand such depth of the matter of Buddha's teaching. So therefore, we need the help of great pioneers such as Arya Nagarjuna, because Nagarjuna knew how to understand and interpret such teachings of Buddha.
That's the only to hear the rest and so
with that, we finish one particular question and answer from the three Kadamba brothers to Domtemba. Now we move to the next question. So the things I explained about the great pioneers, Nagarjuna and Asanga and the Hasudra, these are more like my kind of illustration. These are the things which are not literally said in this particular text. If you can read the Tibetan text, you don't see anything mentioned about Nagarjuna and Asanga here. But those are just my illustration.
Young Tembalas, Dante Javin Junior, come to Tigas, come to the Tembas and trade on the Delta, trade numbers of a dongating and Tembas in that, and it and coming in band that trade on the chicken, that Casse, Dante Javin Junior and those in a condition to what.
So then a teacher is called, simply identified as teacher from Kham, eastern part of Tibet, asked a question to Domtemba.
That's what in case, Dame Nietzsche's the Roski Peseta Kansa Dame Nietzsche, the Kansa Dame, the church Dame Nibatis, and it turned out Kandinasi Akandishindus.
So that teacher from the Kham asked Domtemba, could you please explain the meaning of two selflessnesses, or two types of selflessness, which are the selflessness of a person and the selflessness of phenomena.
That the land that can be Chinese, Yagis, she will tunis, she tunis, Mage can be tell Yen Chelas, Shepe Jikins, some tongues, that he was some sound tongues. Jikins a part shed churches sheners, church shenny. Yin is cell Johnson, and that service that said that trouble said that Chevy, no but teacher, money but Tekara Kazak Dami is gonna.
So Domtemba said to that teacher that if you take time to analyze in every minute details, from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet, if there is anything, that could be identified as self of a person, you will not find one. So basically, if we do find analysis of what self is, where does it exist? Is there anything that can be called self? From the crown of our head down to the soles of our feet, if there's anything in our body or this whole structure we have that's called self, he said, you don't find it. That is called the selflessness of a person.
Dadan Zimba, Kanzak Dadan Zimba, Church Dangzis, Kanzak Dangzis, those in that thing you put in Aranso, that Ranjuli Vedia, Tiny Boti, Naranzo Pony, Samal, that thing which had the garish.
But we must understand that even though there is no such a self that we could find under fine analysis, but all of us have two types of grasping. There is the grasping at the self of a person, as if such a self exists. And there is the grasping at the self of phenomena, as if such a self exists. So we do have the grasping at such selves, even though those selves don't exist.
That thing, Kanzak Datan, Church Datan Zimba, you put in Aranso, you're the thing you put in Aranso, call a Yanni and call it, don't you pardon me, zogu to zoya karena ane da oman juwan the panin da wata song da dangbo se dangbo tomatele dangbo nga ki dala henju kins nga se ta rancha kim bu zini rancha kim bu zini ta te kansak da zini kansak da zhen zini ta kan da zhen zini rancha kim bu zini ta yin la ta never share chamal til tong ni ngar ma.
So the point we are trying to make here is, even though there is no such thing as self of a person, but we do grasp at such a self. That's called grasping at the self of a person. Even though there is no such thing as self phenomena, but we do grasp at such a self. So we have grasping at the self of phenomena. And these two graspings, we call Tenzin in Tibetan, are the real troublemakers. That's what, we got stuck in samsara. That's why we, go through so much headaches in samsara. As great Indian master Acharya Chandrakirti states in his supplement to the middle way called Madhyamik Avatar, as Geshe quoted the stanza from his memory, he says, how do those graspings pop up, right? If you ask it, first there arises that the conception of I. I is so important. It's the center of the universe. Nothing is more precious than I. You see, that's how the grasping at the self of a person pops up, And then everything related to the I is so important. So there's the grasping at mind. Mind this, mind that, and this and that, So because of these two conceptions of the graspings, we run into misery.
Yes. Tende ke tangbur ane nga dad dangsin de rangju dad zibati wan ke de dak ndiki ngola chashefas then tangbu nganzi then my nawa my na my ke my zubu my aneta chamalo kala pinja chamal then there leon gares.
So first there arises the sense of I, which is the grasping of the self of a person, right? Which looks like the center of the universe. Then everything related to I is important, right? As you heard Geshe say, my ears, my nose, my tongue, my body, my possession, my relatives, my family, my
job,
my car, and my boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, and rest of the thing.
So that is the church dancing.
So that my part, you see, mind, which we call mind, everything is like labeled mind. That is the grasping at the self of phenomena.
So that thing about the never so.
So our job as a spiritual practitioner is to destroy the two graspings. Okay, not everything in the world. To destroy the two graspings at the self of phenomena and person.
This is the sure
So again, as I always say, we are really not talking about, the third person. We are talking about ourselves. When we say that we need to destroy the two graspings, what we mean is, I need to destroy my two graspings. We are not talking about trying to destroy somebody's graspings.
So that
So because it's so important to destroy the two graspings, so that's why that teacher from the Kham, he specially asked this question to Domtamba, could you explain the two selflessnesses? As I started off this teaching, that all the things we don't like, and it comes from negativity, and all the things we like comes from positive actions. So we really go deep into the issue. All the things we don't like, all kinds of sicknesses, all kinds of misery, all kinds of problems, these are caused by the two graspings.
Damit karreseta kanza dame pat karrese tan dosin in the rank any yage any she will soon is that yage she will soon can't be tell padus something don't pass sene The Nareve, Tanga say your social media, media mene. That the Tarini Nareves, social media thing. As social those say this year, and that Mokabados, Rankabados, doesn't.
So as Ramdamba said, if we take the time to analyze from the crown of our head to the soles of the feet, maybe the easy thing is to say from head to toe, analyze ourselves, and just take every, maybe if need be, strain of hair, like is this me, whatever your name is, I can call myself, is this Tenzin, is this one particular hair? And so just go on and analyze every minute detail, every part of my structure, say, is anything there that is really Tenzin? Who is this? Then we will not find it. We will not
part
find
of the bodies. No. This is me, this is me. No. So then, that's it. Then they say it until Tangati Ladu, that's your noble teacher mess, Mebas, the current contact dummy. That thing you can do, no? That contact die your dearest. The age Meba, the money ever sent, that the Tani Trubaki, that Trubaki Meba. That how could it that damage over your race?
So when we do such analysis and when we don't find self, anything that is called I or Tenzin or whatever your name is, what is not found is what we call selflessness of a person. If we do find something under this analysis, maybe this little bit thing, strange thing I have, that's Tenzin, right? Well, then it's not a selflessness. You see, we got something that is called Tenzin, But once we do the analysis and nothing that's in this structure that can be identified as Tenzin, so what is not found, as we would say, is you find what's not found, which is the selflessness of a person.
That's
So when we first kind of use this whole body, this physical aggregate, say, is any part of this body is me or I, and then we run through the whole list of the body components or the constituents, and we don't find anything that's called I. Now we might say, yeah, but the body is, I know, this solid thing, but that's mind. Maybe that's where I find myself,
Simtele tan mashi chaki mambu dijeres. Mama derbe, shema derbe, di shema derbe, and those in that by Zagores, they are maris.
But we can do the same analysis with mind. Mind is not a single phenomenon. It is a world in itself, right? There are different types of mind. And even we go with a particular state of a mind, it has many previous moments, it has many subsequent moments. It's not just a one thing, you see. It has many parts. And if we split the parts of the mind, the previous moments and the subsequent moments, and look at, is this the mind, this particular split of the moment, is this me, then we don't find it.
That and they say, Manepa, Euros, the Manepa Tagara and the Kanzak Dami is Kano.
So when we examine our body and mind to find out if anything is there in our physical mental aggregates that could be identified as me or I or Tenzin or whatever our name is, and we don't find it, that which is not found, as I said, is what we call the selflessness of a person. But then we may ask, what about my mind that has, been analyzing to find out who the Tenzin is? For example, I'm just using my name, okay? You don't have to, who I am. But is that mind something that is findable, that does the analysis? But when we apply the same analysis to our own state of consciousness of mind, we are not able to find the mind, you see. So that which is not found in this case is what we call the selflessness of phenomena. So I think there are more things to talk about this, and maybe I'll stop there and give you time to ask questions, which means I've got 2 questions placed on my table here. question number 1. The instinct of self-grasping is, I believe, what helps us as a baby stay alive, crying for hunger, etc. Is this the same self-grasping that leads to all delusions? Can see this sense again. So there was who should you come there again? So chebo che Pena Choto Ngugo again. Did it chebo che did Tangzi say Tantanzo, Yomo Tamji Shiza Tangzi Roba, didn't you what was happening?
Let you check windows.
No.
Tingazago, Kopute, what they call the Mato, not in some of Yamaravas.
No. Continue.
Not over to say Yorova. And the in a tag not over the setting in City, Taran Danzi by Zingaris.
No. I think we have to differentiate between, I, which conventionally exists, right? Because even a baby has I, and maybe baby cries for milk or whatever, or are grasping at I. Those are two different things. The way we see I to exist, that is where the problem is. That's what we call grasping at self. Not so much that I exist, I exist. I function, I eat, I do a lot of things. That is not a problem. The problem is the way I perceive I to exist. Okay.
That they are goes. Danzi tell a danzi kunta tang finches in your rest.
No.
Says Pugu some Dazi finches and the Nanga Kuke.
No.
Pe Duca D in a takoe call in massage pado danzi damet of Herod Angela massage pado Nanga Yungetele finches cigarettes.
No.
Kunta sing the 21.
No.
21. Shara that Kunta de Yamaras, 21 Yungo, Spook to tell 21 goes from that sometime Yamarava.
No.
No.
I think maybe I should explain a little bit about the distinction between two types of grasping. That is what we call intellectual grasping at self, and then there is the innate grasping at self. Even small babies have what we call innate grasping at self. Okay, nobody needs to be taught about that. Because so long as we are born into samsara, and we have never got out of samsara, all of us do have what we call this innately developed grasping at I or self. Birds do, animals do, and all sentient beings have this one. But there is an intellectual form of grasping at self, which has to come through what we call studying philosophies and the principles of tenets and such matters. Okay. So in this case, the small babies, they are not yet influenced by any philosophy, you see. And in the case of birds and animals, right, they are not into philosophy and all that stuff, So therefore, they do not have intellectual grasping at, self. But they do have, as we all do, innately developed grasping at self. So until and unless we cultivate the wisdom realizing selflessness, right? Once we have that wisdom, and then we get rid of the innate grasping, we all have that. Nobody needs to be taught about it. Nobody needs any education about it. It's just the thing we have, being born in samsara.
Somebody said someone that dancing being ever yours.
No.
That you don't be catch to a penny. Not tea, tuna, jobbing on his jotos.
No.
But Cousin Hamatan, those no man those in Scana, tell it, sitting as a song or the inn, I tell it. Dancing get the Kabaka young man.
But we also need to keep in mind that every sense of I or the feeling of I does not have to be grasping. Okay, because when we look at Buddha's own statements, as Geshe tried to quote a statement, he said, at certain time I was born as a king Ngale Nu, one of the Indian kings. Okay, whatever his name was, Indian name. So I'm a such an I that Buddha talked about, it's not a grasping at self. So the point I'm trying to drive home here is, every feeling of I or self does not have to be grasping. Okay.
Sounds right. On that,
no. And my next question is, you mentioned in your last teaching that it is important to put future lives before this life. Many obstacles to my practice appear to exist primarily due to my attachment to the appearances of this life. What is the most beneficial practice to perform to relax this attachment in a way that allows me to also uphold my day-to-day responsibilities and duties to others in this busy modern life?
Pena chawa mataba santondis. Ani chawa mataba chambeshe. Chawa mataba chambina de rang hij changros. He tuila ani kar pendo karing was. So the shebe. Lega sendi ani lega shebe tunjel ani sendel corny. Santan is able to and pendo kan. It's been here jani le kana ke jesun dang kun was take him. Socially rawansh meba. Le carbotata give it to me give it jesun dang kun was. That they intend that rang your Julia and a gave a condition to McGill lake condition to day. The thing you get top children day. That thing you top children that is Janita, she was similar to Dagata, she was somewhere like that how chime. So that thing turned out I said that she was rang two dread, she was some pencilla, and pay sometimes look of those. There's a much they call it Dungan Yosina, calling Yanni to corner. That Dungan Mango Yonga, then something.
I think cultivating awareness of impermanence of life would be a very effective practice to counteract our attachment to the marvels of this lifetime. When we think about impermanence of life and things around us, and we remind ourselves that this life is not going to last forever, we have to leave all the things behind one day. So that is a fact of life, right? It's not a mystery of life, not the Eastern philosophy or mystery here, but that is a fact of life. So then we ask the question, if I spend all my time, energy, and resources just to fulfill the needs of this lifetime, my responsibilities for this life and everything, but when that time comes for me to say goodbye, what can really stand by me and help me afterwards? Right? Can I take all the things I did in this life? What really decides the next life is what kind of karma that we ourselves create and accumulate. Right? We can talk about good and bad karmas. If we want something positive in the next life, then we got to do good karmas. And if we don't want anything bad happen in the next life, we should stop doing negative karma. So then we are honest to ourselves and analyze, like, where do I stand now? How much positive karma have I created? And how much negative karma have I created? Okay, so then that picture will give us the answer, okay, what we got to do. If we find that we have created more negative karma, so once the death strikes us, you see, pretty much the negative karma will decide our future. And that's going to be, a sad future. So in the meantime, right now, we can do something about it. We can purify our negative karmas. We can make more efforts to cultivate positive karmas. So that's why now we see why it is so not only important, but essential for us to cultivate dharma or spirituality in order to benefit our next life.
Ani te girum bisundo lamcho dul singi sami te mani pa de sashe yongis ani mi luten na ba to ji to ma jo na ben shewa shama de latang lama yin de de ani ya ngen so na ka ba an de le shewa na ani rang chue de pa ki de ju ne shewa shama de ya ko ma jo te re singi sami te ji ya ko ma jo na ani de chue na ba to ji du ra ga ma re so cha de 많이 was they masam jol loves shewa shama pe uni thing shewa yang ta ba chu du bi ten yong king ga ta ten de jebes a shewa ya bu lan ji ge chim res kana do.
That's great teacher Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa or Jermo just said, and Geshe quoted all the lines from his memory, the need for us to make every effort and create all the causes and conditions to find our precious human life in the next round or in our next life. So without a precious human life, it is so difficult to make any spiritual advancement towards enlightenment. Okay? And so if we were to born, let's say we are lucky to be born as a divine being of some kind, some celestial being, or we are born as a demigods or asuras, but spiritually speaking, we will still be handicapped. We cannot make much of a spiritual progress. Okay? So it is so important for us to find a precious human life, the kind of human life that we enjoy now, that is endowed with freedoms and enriching factors, which is the best kind of life for spiritual growth and development. So if we would like to make a continuous progress towards the enlightenment, then it's almost indispensable in some sense for us to find this kind of life again and again, you see, especially in the next round.
be samne be go chaga ye be chabu be go chaha je go ye de stami na ane de ni ni mo de ane so semte ane ge shola dan doya ke chim chagris kanando.
I don't recall the name of the Kadamba Geshes who said this, but I remember what he said. And he said that at early morning when we rise up and we really meditate on impermanence of life and things around, right? To the extent that it has some kind of physical impact, that maybe our ears kind of heated up, got kind of hot, head. Yeah, some kind of like we have this like sort of feeling somewhere in your face region. And so if you have that kind of impact, meditation, impermanence, then your day is going to be positive. We are not going to go into, doing negative things. Yes.
Yeah. In the morning, you think about that impermanent, and also think about the suffering of the lower rounds. If you think about that way, then it's just like it's from the head is so what's that?
No. Some sensation.
Pain or something.
Yeah.
If that's kind of you do, then that day, whole day, go through the positive action. Body switch, minds are positive actions. So that's one thing. That
no. So we will stop there today.
Dedication and this one. ngarancho ane kyokini shebe ge zawala den sanji tembar mo gida jirin de ne pata ane tembar je den shebe tamba jawro mo ji zebe den shebe tamba shi kule shebe tembar de suji ne de me me ndo yongwa ta a kyo dong ge sho ho man ji kyun ji jawana yi zhen den ro pata gidin je kam de de yin de me te be go so de hini tunjen lo de de me me ndo yongwa ta ando na ane ma ge senje tamji din ji ni wa de sanji ko mo mo gida bi jo chi.
Let us dedicate our collective merit gained from this morning's teachings for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other great holy beings, wherever they are in any part of the universe, live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. Last but not least, we dedicate our merit for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, obscuration to nirvana and obscuration to omniscience, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly.
Guru